How you doing? Welcome back to the hood. This is Chill on the Green Box with Specks, Thompson, and the View. And like always, man, my co-host is not here, and he trying to tell me he has to go to practice, but I haven't heard this man talk about football, the whole time. But now he got to go football practice. Like I'm pretty sure he plays baseball, but football, come on. So I don't know. Maybe he just I'm pulling my leg, but hey, Kyrun, thanks for coming on anyway.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me on here. I'm disappointed I can't meet the view officially, but I'm glad I get to talk to you again.
Oh, yeah, it's great, man. It's on. We're on the flip side now. I'm used to being on your show. Now, you're on my show now. So, thanks. For people who don't know who you are, give them like a little brief introduction of who you are.
Well, my name is Kyrun Silva. I run Taurus Comics. I've been making comics for the past 10 years, this year officially. The past 5 or 6 years, though, I've been doing it as my full-time job. I've made books called Shaman's Destiny, Saw the Lightning Wielder, Ruby from Planet Oz, and Starcore. I've also done artwork for other companies like Orange Cone Productions, Instinct Comics, Bonfire Press, and a couple other companies. But yeah, I'm a writer and an artist. I do as much as I can to save money, but also because I love making comics. And right now, I'm running a Kickstarter for issue 4 of my book called Saw the Lightning Wielder. We have like 6 days left, 5 days left, something like that, and we're like $100 away from hitting goal. And hope everybody checks it out.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Cool. We get into all your books later on the show, but our first question on the show for you, being in California, are you the first Californian?
Wait,
I
what?
think. Are you the first person for California I interviewed? I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure it out. But if you, but um, well, the show's called Chill on the Green Box, and back in the day, I used to chill on the green electrical box in the front neighborhood. Did y'all have
Mhm.
those over there, or?
Yeah, I got one right down the street of my neighbor's house.
Oh well.
Yeah. We didn't chill on it though, just because ours had like, at least back in the day, it was always surrounded by fencing because people
Oh,
would sit on it and they were worried that somebody might get electrocuted or something. But yeah, we used to hang around all the time.
well, that's new. Um, a lot of people gave me reasons why they couldn't do it, but yours definitely the first one that had a fence around it.
Yeah, I remember seeing one, and then we used to throw stuff inside of the fence to try to hit it, like rocks and whatnot. And then eventually they would put like a sign out saying, "Hey, don't throw things into the." I don't remember what those things are called, like what the official name is, but
it
that
might
that
be
just
a
made us want to throw more stuff into it.
it might be a transformer, but
Okay,
I just said a green electrical box, but I think they're
yeah.
transformers. But now if they are transformers, we definitely shouldn't be sitting on them. But yeah, but since you get the reference, I guess I explained it, to the listeners and viewers as well what they are. But when I was chilling on them back in the day, we used to chill with friends and break down ideas, concepts, just talk and hang out. And that's
Mhm.
basically what this show is about, just talking and hanging out. And so people get to know who you are versus just you talking about your comic for 2 hours and nobody ever know anything or why to support you. So with my first segment, it's called Breaking It Down because on that green box, we just break things down. So right now, I'm going to break your brain down so people know more about you. So, you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So, what was your first car?
First car I ever owned, that was a 1996. No, it's a 1992 Honda Accord EX.
I think my first car, first car was a truck. It was like some this hodgepodge truck that my granddaddy had. It was like a Chevy and a GMC pickup truck, just all put together, like, and it was pretty dope looking truck, but I never knew what it was. It was just a GM truck at that point.
Okay.
But
So
right
like,
after
did
that,
he put it together himself?
oh no, definitely not. But he got
Oh.
somebody to customize it for him, so they just took since it's all GM motors, the parts was all typically the same. So they just took, I guess, the best parts and made this like sports truck type of thing. It kind of not a Ford Raptor. Like it kind of had looking like a Ford Lightning, if you remember those.
Okay, yeah, I remember those.
Yes,
Okay.
then he had spray painted and custom out. He had like a ironically a Black Panther on the hood of it. So I don't know the reference, but he had a Black Panther on the hood. but but after that, I my dad thought um that truck was too much for a 15-year-old kid to have, so
Mm,
he said I couldn't have it. So I got a '88 Honda Accord. So I think
okay.
that's the same model of the consent one you had.
Okay. Yeah, I bought it just because I needed a car to get to college. Like it was my first car, and it was good on gas, and it was cheap. And I was
Yeah.
like, and everybody kept telling me Hondas won't break down because I don't know nothing about fixing cars. It's just not my thing. So everybody's like, get a Honda, get a Toyota. You don't have to worry about fixing it up. And I think I had that car for about a good 7 years, and then I sold it to my brother-in-law at the time. So yeah, that thing worked wonders. Like I had no issues with that car, and honestly, if I could buy another car like that, I would right now.
I bet the price for that car is definitely way more than when you had it.
I think I probably overpaid for it. I'm pretty sure I did, but it gave me no issues, so I was cool with it.
hmm
Um, it was a four door, which I don't mind. I'm a sensible guy. I needed the extra space, but it was cool, man. It was the best car I had. And after that, after that car, I had a Acura Integra, GSR, and then that got stolen like within a year of me having it. I was pissed because we had just moved into a house, and like 2 days after moving to the house, somebody broke into the car and stole it from me. I was like,
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah, it's because that Fast and Furious movie, man.
It was about that same time Fast and Furious came out. Yeah, you're right. And I was
Yeah,
pissed because they found it, and the whole car was just stripped, like all the parts of it. And this wasn't like a souped up car; it was pretty basic. But they just stole my baby. They stole my baby after that.
yeah. My cousin, he was a street racer, and like he'll find cars like yours, and so let's say his car got messed up during a race or something, he would just drive around town and find a car that was like his car and just hotwire it and take it and get the part he need and get the part he needed off of it. Cause he was a
Yeah,
mechanic too, so it was quick.
yeah, that's basically what happened, man. See, yeah, yo, all
You about to
right.
say my people. You about to say my people. I seen
I'm about to say your cousin.
oh yeah. Um. Okay. Next question. Who is the funniest person in your family?
Might be me, honestly. So we ain't that funny. We are not that funny at all. I mean, let me see. I'm gonna say my brother would probably want to say it's him,
hmm
but he ain't funny. It's either me or my sister. It's either me or my sister. My mom, my dad, they're pretty dry. My dad's like getting up there in age, so he thinks he's funny, but everything he says is just silly. So it's either gonna be me or my sister because we're the ones that just go goofy and like to play jokes on each other. Everybody else is just way too serious for the family.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um. I don't know. Mine, I say it might be me, I guess, but
Oh,
not because I try to be. I guess it's because maybe naturally is like I have my family members laughing, so I mean, I guess it just happened. But I don't try to be. I'm like, oh, it's a new joke, and I at work, I tend to do it, and they say, I don't care what come out of my mouth when I say stuff,
hmm.
and apparently now I say a lot of dad jokes, like it was a grape on the ground, one can't have grapes on the ground because somebody might slip and fall. So when I was guarding it, I told one of the my employees that like it wouldn't be great if somebody fell on this, would it?
Oh man, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Did did they look at you and just just shake their head and
Yeah. It's funny because they always say how fast I come up with it. They say I have them just ready to go, and I'm like, I don't know. It just come to me like clockwork. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's one of those things that we get older and those jokes just become funnier for us. Like when we were younger, something like that would not be funny. But now that we're older, we got kids, it's just hilarious. I don't know what it is. Like I said dumb jokes like that to my kids and they're like, Dad, that's not funny. But
Like
to me it was hilarious.
like the one who's hilarious to me is what do you call a fake Mexican?
What do you call it? I don't know.
A paragraph because it can't be an essay.
That's that man. That's
Yeah.
wrong. Bro,
But
that's
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
You just lost like all your Mexican fans right there. They just shut it off right there.
But yeah, that's fun. All right, last question this segment. If you could pick one to like never have ever again, would you never want to have never be able to hear music ever again, or never be
Mm.
able to read ever again?
Ooh, damn. Um, it's like when you say hear music, I'm able to hear other things, just not music.
Yeah, so like we're talking right now, and music come on, you just go mute.
Oh, that's damn, that's hard, man. Bruh, I'm a, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna have to say I don't want to hear music again. Which sucks. I'm hoping like maybe I could do what deaf people do and feel the vibrations of the music afterwards, but I got to
It's
be
still
able to
music.
read. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to feel the vibrations like deaf people do. Oh shit.
You don't know what you're feeling. You're like, it's music. So what you say?
Yeah,
You're feeling the music.
yeah. That's what they do. Like when deaf people go to concerts, they feel the music and then they listen to or they see the sign language people.
They see the sign
I've
language like, oh man, he's spitting.
Yeah, bro, you got to go. You got to go see some of those videos of sign language people like doing like Busta or Eminem, and they just go off. I'm like, how do you move your hands that fast? But
I um I shared the wrong video on TikTok, I guess, but I get a
okay,
lot of videos of uh news clips or real things that happen on TV
hmm
that the sign language person is just making up stuff, really,
I've seen that.
and the guy explaining like they're not even saying anything, they're just throwing up stuff.
I've seen that too. I've seen that too. But I got to be able to read. I mean, there's
You
too
can
many
use
things happening in the world that I can't not read.
you
So,
can do an audio book. You can listen to it. You can look like a podcast. It's
well, I
like
mean, yeah, but not even just that. Like, I got to be able to read what people post on the internet. I got to be able to read signs when I'm driving. I got to be able to read prescriptions. There's just too many more important things that I can't not read. Um, that's tough though, because I'm gonna miss my music. I'm gonna miss music for sure. Oh, that was a good question actually.
yeah, I definitely go with not being a read, like, cause I can get audio books. I can listen to a podcast about the news. Uh, I guess I can get Siri to read a text out for me. I mean, I guess the ways around it. I think the music be the worst part because like music does so many other things.
Yeah.
This yeah, you can use it to calm down. You can use it to turn up. You can use it to feel emotion. It's so many. I guess read it the same way.
You can do
I
all
don't
that
know.
reading too. That's what I'm saying. There's so many things that both of them do for you every day that I just couldn't live without either one. Um, but I think ultimately I gotta be able to read. I gotta be able to read, even if it's just basic things. Like as a writer, I gotta be able to read. I can't not be able to read what I'm writing. So uh, that's actually a damn good question, honestly.
Well, you say that though, but R. Kelly can't read, and he's a songwriter.
I, are you okay? But that's different though. That's different though. Wait, wait. Because he's verbalizing somebody's writing it down for him. See, that means I
You can
gotta
do the
hire
same.
somebody.
You can do the same thing.
All right. Nah, but then I gotta hire somebody to do that. I mean, unless I'm making R. Kelly money, I, I got I can't hire nobody to be writing down everything I say, and then no, nah, that's not gonna work for me. And then think about like, I mean, you write your own comic books. Think about how many pages of writing you do when you write your book. You can't have like R. Kelly. A song might be what 3, 4 pages worth for a full song, but I mean, you want that 20 page, 30 page comic book, whatever it is. That's a lot more that you gotta write down. Nah, I gotta stick with writing. I got to keep my writing, and then find another way to enjoy my music. I just can't do it. I can't.
Alright, right. Well, that's the end of that segment. On to my next segment. Being the comics, you should know this one. It's called the back issues.
Hmm.
For people who don't know about back issues, it's typically if you want to know about a character's origin story, you're going to the back issues. So if you want to know about I don't know, Spawn, you're going to his back issues, find out more about his origin story. So in this segment, we're going to go to your back issues to find more about your origin story.
Okay.
All right. So where are you from and what do you call your hood?
I'm born and raised in Sacramento. I'm from Southside. We call it off Amherst or Florin. And I grew up with my mom's and my sister. My sister moved out when I was like 8 or 9, so it was basically just me in the house. And I used to wander the streets with my friends. We'd be on our bikes, just hopping off and just run around the town, man, doing everything we could. Uh, Got into comic books and video games when I was like 10, 11, somewhere around there, and just fell in love with everything that's pop culture, what we call pop culture now. But I mean, everything back then it was just fun. So,
It's dope. Um, since you say you wouldn't want to listen to music no more, but something got you into music, liking music, and what was that one thing that got you liking that kind of music or genre or artist?
um, I mean, I don't think it was just one particular artist, but I'm a huge R&B fan. That's my number one thing, particularly anything 80s, 90s R&B. I'm down for that. I listen to some hip hop all the time. But I also listen to other stuff. Like I'll listen to some alternative music. I'll listen to K-pop every once in a while. Like I can't say one particular artist, but if any genre just got me into music, it's R&B. Just anything R&B like we said, I mean, I know we don't talk about him anymore, but R. Kelly was a huge influence of my love of music. People like Boyz II Men, Babyface, Blackstreet, small groups like Example, just anybody that had music and had that rhythm and blues that I wanted in my life. I just was drawn to it all the time.
And what about comics? What comic book got you into comics or comic book related TV show got you into it?
Honestly, what got me into comics was Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Like I knew about Spider-Man and Batman and Superman, things like that. I'd heard about them, but what got me into comic books was Ninja Turtles. I was watching the cartoon, and I don't remember who it was. If it was my mom or auntie or something like that, but they're like, "Hey, I found this comic book of Ninja Turtles. Did you want it?" And I was like, I didn't know Ninja Turtles came in the comic books, and I read like a couple issues. I was like, this is dope. And then next thing I know, I was at the grocery store and I was looking, where the candy aisle was, and all of a sudden I saw comic books there. I was like, I didn't know we could buy comic books here. Like I didn't know where you could buy comic books. So next thing I knew, I was pulling up every comic book I could get. Got my mom to get me some books from like back in the day where you could order them and have them shipped to you. I convinced her to get me some of that, and that love of comics just kept coming up. And then you had so many cool cartoons like X Men, Batman, Superman, that were all related around comic books, that just solidified that idea that I love this idea of characters and world building and just storytelling just through comics. It was just something that just took off for me from there. So, it started with Ninja Turtles, and then from there started going into like X-Men, Batman, and then when I started growing up, we had Image Comics started blowing up, things like Dark Horse, and they were different than what Marvel and DC were producing. So I was like, this is cool. This isn't just your generic Superman or superhero. This was something you want to say edgy, extreme, whatever you want to call it, but it was different than what everybody else is producing, and that just told me that I can make a book and it doesn't have to be your standard cape and cowl type character. It can be something unique and different, like Spawn. It can be different, like Savage Dragon or Hellboy. It can be something completely off what we normally consider a comic book and still be exciting and fun. And that love just kept growing from there.
That's dope. That's dope. Have I asked that question? No, I don't think nobody ever asked me that question. But when you bring up Ninja Turtles, I definitely a big Ninja Turtle fan. Haven't watched the movie yet, but definitely a big Ninja Turtle fan. But when it comes to like the show, they got me into it. I'm not sure, was I watching the show first or did I have a comic book first? Like the first
Mm.
comic book that got me to it was the Young Justice comic book series.
Okay.
I remember that very vividly. And 2 years ago I found like this whole series from a collector and I bought it from him. So now I got that peach and
Oh,
nostalgia for
snap.
myself. But Ninja Turtles, I guess I would say that too, but I didn't know it was a comic book until basically I was grown, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, a
I
lot
was
of people did.
Yeah, I always thought it was a show in the movies. I never thought it was a comic book. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then when I found out it was a comic book, the comic books were completely different than the TV show. Like the TV show was kid friendly, it was watered down, it was goofy and silly. And the comic books were gritty, they were violent, they were bloody at times. And I was like, dude, these are awesome. These are fucking fantastic. I like everything I wanted to have in a book. This is what Ninja Turtles was bringing to me, and that this idea of just doing something that was different than what I saw from comic books. I was like, I got to keep doing this. I got to keep reading, finding new titles, new things that can keep that imagination going.
Since your mom gave you the mailing list to get your comic books and whatnot, I know sometime after that, you found out that you was a blurred. So when did you find out that you was a blurred?
Man, I didn't even find out what a blurred was until like I was in my 30s. Like that term blurred didn't come out when I was reading comics back in the day. It was like relatively new. But when I was growing up, being black and being into things like comic books and anime wasn't cool where I was. Like it'd get your butt kicked if you told somebody, "Hey, you're into comics," or "Hey, you're into Dragon Ball." It wasn't cool back then. So the idea of being a blurred back then was just not something you told people. Like you would sort of hide it. You'd be ashamed of it in a way. At least where I grew up with, like other black people would be like, "Hey, you either were into sports or you were into music or you were into gangbanging." And I was like, I'm too short to do sports. I love music, but it's just not my passion. And I'm not gonna shoot nobody if I don't have to. So comics was just that thing that getaway that I could really get into, and I sort of didn't tell people until I got to I was adult, and I was like, I don't care what people think now. And then that's when the internet opened it up and showed me that there were so many other black people around there that were into things that I was into, and they were free to enjoy it. And that's one of the cool things about the internet for me is that you could be thousands of miles away from somebody, but still have that connection with somebody, and still show that, hey, you like X-Men, I like X-Men too. Let's talk about it. So being a blurred, I take it as a badge of honor now because now I'm able to express that I can be a blurred and love comic books and love anime and love cartoons even as an adult now. and not have to worry about what people care about.
For me, I was playing on different episodes of this show that growing up, you can't with my friends, you couldn't really tell, about who's nerdy and whatnot because how stuff released.
Hmm.
But just you talking and what's going on TV right now. Um, so yeah, we like Dragon Ball, we like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, X-Men, Spider-Man, all that growing up. But physically reading that stuff probably wasn't, cool.
Yeah.
But I can say, oh, you seen a new episode of Dragon Ball Z? Everybody be like, yeah, man, that was dope. Goku did the Kamehameha. But if I would say, hey, Star Wars Episode 1's coming out, or it's May the 5th, May the 4th, May the 5th, and they doing a whole marathon of Star Wars on TV right now, they be like, we're not watching no Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Star Wars, me saying that I like Star Wars was a problem. I remember that growing up. And from me knowing that I like Star Wars kept me from watching Star Trek. So I never got into Star Trek. Because I know that was pushing the nerd level. Like, Star Wars is cool, because they got swords and guns. But Star Trek, I'm pushing it with that. Yeah,
I mean, I get that. But I mean, you got to go back and watch Star Trek now. I don't say go back and watch like the 60s ones, but go watch the Next Generation. Go watch Deep Space Nine. Those are some good shows, man.
People talking about Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
My friends, his dad was big on that one. Now the newer revamped movies, I have watched those.
Okay.
And the new Pixar, Picard, and Discovery. They told me to go watch those.
Yeah. I haven't watched either of those yet, but I've heard they are amazing. So, but I get what you were saying about not telling people that you were watching Star Trek or Star Wars. And it's sad because these were great series, but you just couldn't tell people because we were afraid of shit. I mean, we're afraid. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on your show.
Oh yeah, but you got a podcast. I just gotta put explicit beside your episode.
Okay. I'll try to comment on that. But you could tell people certain things that you were watching, and then other people you knew I couldn't tell them I was into this because you knew they'd be ashamed or they'd look at you differently. So, and I'm glad that nowadays that idea is not as prevalent. Like we're more free to express, hey, I watched Star Trek. I watched this show or that show. And like I was on TikTok the other day and I saw these dudes doing a live stream playing Yu-Gi-Oh on the live stream. And I'm like, I couldn't think of back in the day when Yu-Gi-Oh was popular, like the cartoon series was popular, just seeing people play Yu-Gi-Oh on, just and not feel uncomfortable. I don't know.
Funny part about that, so when it was popular at summer camp, I remember vividly, and a little bit of grade school, but we can't play cards in school. In summer camp, we played we got your deck out, lunchtime, anytime we got free time, we playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards. We got super nerdy and did Dragon Ball Z cards, but only at camp I played Dragon Ball Z with people. Like following years, other years I played Yu-Gi-Oh, but that one year was Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, which was a fun game. I don't know why it never got popular. It was definitely funner than Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon. But when I got to high school, I think that was like middle school. That was going on, maybe 9th grade. High school. Now, when them folks did that in high school, that's why I was like, oh yeah, we're not doing that. Cause they'll sit lunch table, be them way in the middle, all by itself. They got they mad out playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was like, y'all pushing it, man. Y'all doing too much. But then we played video games. You played the video games, but we had the gamers club in high school, and you knew better not to join gamers club. But they had the games. They do the LAN section and all that stuff, but don't play gamers club. They met after school and before school, but definitely before school they be in the library. So A, they're in the library, and B, they're in the library before school playing video games. So they got it the worst. But I don't know. But we'll go home and go to each other's houses and play video games with each other.
Yeah.
But I guess the fact that we're doing it at school was a problem.
And then you think about like nowadays, so many people, kids nowadays, they go to school and they're playing video games on their phone while they're at school with no problem. Just it's weird how that dynamic just keeps changing over time. How things become more acceptable when we thought it was just not cool.
I'm waiting to see when my kids turn out with, because my oldest daughter, she's know the superheroes already. Of course, Disney princesses, so she knows like the standard Justice League characters, Avengers. Uh, I've been watching the Clone Wars. Uh, I don't think I brought it up recently in this episode, but I call that nerd gap. Nerd gap is when you do the nerdy stuff, like you said, then you get older and you start doing your job or liking girls, playing sports, whatever. Then you start go back and watching nerdy stuff. So in
Hmm.
my case, when Clone Wars was popular, I wasn't watching Star Wars because I was doing other things. So I missed that whole series. So now I'm going back rewatching it. So my daughter see me watching it. So I was like, okay, so I got her in superheroes. Now I can get her in, Star Wars. So with her being like in Star Wars comics, on how she gonna grow up, like how they gonna accept her growing up, because she could be very versed, because she got Star Wars, she got Disney princesses, she got comics, all that. So yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, she's probably gonna be more popular than other people because she knows all these things, and she's gonna be, readily able to just talk about it. And whereas somebody who didn't have that knowledge is gonna be looked at and be like, "Why don't you know about this now?" So, I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. The funny part, I rewatched Yu Yu Hakusho earlier
I
in the
love that
year.
series. That
Uh,
series is
so
dope.
so now I ain't real. Oh, she wasn't watching it, but she actually see me watching it. Sometimes she sit
Mm.
next to me while I watched it. But if that intro comes on, I see her running from the other room. I was like, how do you remember the intro? And she comes running. I'm like, wow, is it really that lit?
Yeah, it is. That is one of the best theme songs just all time. That's a top for me. That's a top 10, maybe even top 5 theme song. Honestly, just that
uh,
opening 3 beats, you're like dun 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 dun. You're just like, I know what this is. I know what time it is. Let's do this. Like,
going to work, if I know I could go into some bullshit at work, I play Ichigo's theme music. Then right behind it, I play Nucky Buck.
that's a good combo right there. That gets you hyped all the time. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Because on Bleach, when you hear Ichigo's music, we hear that hold on, number one. Yeah,
You know.
he's about to go down. But
Oh, wow.
yeah. But that's the end of that segment. Hopefully, people got a good introduction to your backstory. Uh, now I'm going to the hotkeys, and this is a double meaning term. Being in comics, all about hotkeys. About key issues. When a new writer, new artist get on a project, or nowadays when it become a TV show or movie, or when a new character introduced, or a huge plot in the story. But in music, it's buttons on a DJ's turntable that he can press to cue up a song, or play a song during a special part of the club night or an event, or he sees something that trigger. He can have that song ready to go and play it and get everybody lit.
Mm.
So on this segment, it's questions that I asked for you previously to give to me, as well as ones I formulated as well, so people can take that part of the show with them, so they actually know something and grab something from this whole episode.
Okay.
All right, so um, from I don't think you said it earlier, but you said you're a writer and artist.
Yep.
So which one you start pursuing professionally first, and why?
Um, I started pursuing art first, and that's because I've always loved drawing. It's something I did when I was like 7, 8 years old, just randomly drawing characters, things like that. My mom would take it to her job, and she'd just give me some paper and a pen, and I just draw all day, just to pass the time. So I always wanted to be a comic book artist. I always wanted to be the next Jim Lee, the next Todd McFarlane, just a big name. And then when I had the chance, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to become a comic book artist. And the only reason I started writing is because I had characters that I had stories for, and I just didn't trust people to tell the story the way I felt like it could be told. Not that I thought I was a good writer, or I thought I was a great writer or anything. I just was like, I have an idea for this character. I have an idea for the story. I want to take the story a certain way, and I don't trust people to do it, so I'm gonna do it myself. I've always had that personality that if I feel like I can do it, I'm gonna do it myself. So I still wanted to be, well, I still want to be an artist if possible. That's still my main goal. But if I can do writing also, I'm gonna do it just because I want to get better at that.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, s- well, I'm not that deep in the rabbit hole of comics, but how is it being a black artist in the comic book industry?
I mean, we're a minority inside of a minority, basically. Like there are, I think, I mean, most of the field of artists are probably still white here in America. Though if you look at a lot of Marvel DC, a lot of the artists nowadays are from mostly like the Philippines or Italy or something like that. But seeing a black comic artist growing up, there weren't a lot for us to emulate towards. Like we had a couple. We had Larry Stroman, we had Daryl Banks, we had God, what's his name? Cullen. We had Dennis Cowan. I mean, we had some, but there compared to the amount of other artists that are out there, we were a minority. So the idea that if I can go into a comic convention nowadays and see more artists that are black or just more people of color, I it's something it personally am just happy for because that just means that we're able to tell more stories that we're interested in. And anytime I go to a comic convention, I see someone that's somebody new, people of color, anything like that. I'll personally go up to them and just talk to them and find out what they're doing because I want this industry to thrive, but I want it to thrive for everybody, not just certain groups. I want everybody to be able to see that they can do this also.
Uh, at the beginning of the show, you list a lot of companies you did work for and whatnot. List was a lot of small press publishers. Have you done anything for any major publishers, or if not, has it been by choice, or you just haven't had the opportunity to do it?
The biggest publisher I've ever worked for is Antarctic Press. They're the ones that do the Warrior Nun series that was recently on Netflix, and they do a couple other series, a lot of manga-based series. So that's the biggest company I've worked for. And a lot of it is I've never submitted my work to any of the big two, just because I want to be able to control my characters. And I know if I work for Marvel or DC, and not saying that I could, but I'm saying if I work for Marvel or DC, I'm under the control of their restrictions and their limitations. And I like the idea of being independent. I like the idea of just being able to do what I want to do with my stories with my characters. So I think for right now, um, I'm just gonna stick independent and just see where that takes me. Now that doesn't mean if Marvel came up and said, "Hey, Kyrun, I want to have you take over the X-Men series or Silver Surfer." I'll drop everything for those two books. So those are my favorite books growing up. Or if DC said, "Hey, we want you to do a Batman series," I'll drop everything I can to work on that because these are the characters I've always wanted to work on. But unless something like crazy like that happens, I'm gonna stick with what I got.
Okay, okay. Speaking of what you got a couple series. You got out. One you have a Kickstarter for right now. It's a Zop, the Lightning Wielder. and Starcore being another one.
Mhm.
Which one does you want to speak about first? Because I think both of them properties you've been doing for a while. I think they're old characters you just revamped to for your books nowadays.
Well, I mean, Saw, I've been doing that for 4 years now. It's like 4 or 5 years. Can't remember when first issue came out, but yeah, you're right. We're running Kickstarter for right now. As of this moment, we're like less than $100 away from funding, and that's to produce issue 4 of it. And it's a personal series for me because it reflects my wife's culture. And for me, it's my way of representing her culture into the mainstream. Um, and I like the character because it's a cool superhero series about this young woman who gets these powers of this lightning god, and now she has to deal with all that comes with that, saving her city, saving the world, things like that. But she also has to still deal with the minor things that you and I have to deal with, paying bills, dealing with her mom who's a little crazy, dealing with grief. She just lost her dad, and a good friend of hers just died. So she has to deal with all these other minor things that we deal with on day to day, you know, everyday thing. She still has to go to work and pay bills, but then she has to figure out a way to go save the world. So I like this series because it tries to incorporate what we deal with on everyday life, but adds that superhero flair to it. People have asked me what it's like, and the closest thing I could describe it to is it's a Spider-Man like series, where you see Spider-Man and you deal with all the superhero stuff that he deals with, but you also get that human side of Spider-Man that we all love, that Mary Jane and Peter Parker interaction, that Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson interactions. You get to see him be Peter as much as you get to see him be Spider-Man, and that's what Saw is for me. Starcore is there's a character that came out back in the 90s called Darkhawk from Marvel. I love that character, and I always wanted to write it, but I was like, they killed the series off. But I was like, if I'm gonna do a character, this is how I would do that character. So Starcore is my take of Darkhawk, with just revamping it, restylizing the character, things like that, and doing the stories I would want to see for it. It's about this teenager. He's in high school. He's a little bit of a slacker. He's trying to do what he can for his mom, but he wants to hang out with his friends when he can, and he finds this emerald that gets attached to his body, and we later find out that this emerald in this suit that's now part of him is the most powerful weapon in the universe. So he's going to have to figure out how to control this suit, how to deal with all the powers that come with it, while also going to school, keeping his grades up. And then he also has this clandestine government agency that's tracking him down to get the power of this suit. So there's a lot of angles that you're going to see in the series, and a lot of things that you're going to deal with as the series progresses.
Okay. Going back to Zob, am I saying it right?
Saw. So it's like
S-
SAW. Saw.
Zob. Okay.
Yeah.
You say it's based around your wife and wife's culture. What
Hmm.
I know your wife is an Asian, correct?
Yes, yes.
So what culture is the comic book based off of?
It's based off of Hmong culture. Hmong
Mm-hmm.
people are like nomads that lived in Laos, or the southeastern part of Asia. And they originated from parts of China, and then basically got kicked out of China because they were their own people, and just migrated to the jungles of Laos and stayed there. And during the Vietnam War, they helped the United States through with a lot of their guerrilla warfare. Um, but after the war ended, the United States and all our allies just sort of left them there, and all the Vietnamese people that were fighting against us started hunting them down. So
Oh,
eventually, because of a bunch of religious groups and missionaries, things like that, they were able to bring a lot of these people over from Laos to the United States, basically for their own safety. So I'm trying to incorporate their history and a lot of their mythology into the series, while also keeping it a little bit grounded and keeping it exciting and fun. So it's my best interpretation of their culture. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm an expert, even though I live with someone who is Hmong. But it's my best to tell their story and still keep it exciting and in a comic book format.
okay. Um, is the main character? Was it mom? Is it,
Hmong?
yeah? Is she Hmong?
Yes, she is. Yeah, she's
Okay.
Hmong. Her mom is Hmong. Like her whole family is Hmong, and but she's dealing with this a little bit of a personality identity crisis where a lot of people don't know what Hmong people are. Like when you say Asian, most people know of Korean, Chinese, Japanese, like the major ones. But there's so many other cultures that a lot of people don't even think of when we talk about Asia. You got, Cambodian, you got Indonesian, you got so many other smaller groups that are in parts of Asia. And this is my way of showing this other side of the Asian cultures that there is.
Is she a co-writer only? I mean, not a official co-writer, but is she giving you input what to put in
Um,
there?
she gives me input here and there.
Mm-hmm.
She gives me a lot of ideas just offhanded. Like she'll say something that about it that's she grew up doing, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool, and I'll write that down. And she'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm writing this down for my book." And she's like, "Stop using me as your ideas." And I'm like, "Well, I can't help it. It's your culture. I'm gonna, put what I can in there." But she's not like an official editor. I think she's only read really one issue, even though I've given her all the other issues. She's just not a big comic book person.
Yeah, I know how
Um,
it is.
yeah. Like she'll read manga. Like she reads this manga series all the time. She's okay with it. But she's not when it comes to comic books, she just doesn't want to get into it. So
Well, that was one of my questions too, but but he told me off. What was the other question? But anyway, you brought it up. So why didn't you make it a manga since that would have been easier to translate for that culture?
um well, one thing is that I'm still a comic book person, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to comic books. I'm gonna stick with that because I know how that is. I know what comic books are. I know how to create those. And one thing is, even though she's Asian, the Hmong community aren't really, at least not officially, I guess you can say. They're not huge on things like mangas and animes. The newer generation kids are now. They're really getting into those things, but it's not something that's really widespread for a lot of them. So I didn't want to associate it as a manga just because she's Asian. I still wanted it to be a comic because more than anything, that's what I know and that's what I'm used to.
Okay, okay. And is that like the first of its? I mean, pretty sure not the first of its kind, but is it any other comic like that going around in circulation now, or you like kind of the first to touch on the subject?
I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to create a Hmong-based superhero. I don't know of anybody else out there that's doing it. So if somebody knows anything, let me know. But I'm pretty sure I've talked to other people who are Hmong, and they said they haven't heard of anything before. So I think I'm the first doing it. Um, but you never know. Somebody, I mean, there definitely could be someone out there, but I think I'm the first one. I want to say I'm pretty sure of that.
Okay. Going to your Starcore book. I'm pretty sure I read Starcore. It's been a while, maybe,
Okay.
but I remember previously, maybe it's during the Kickstarter. I don't know if it's promotional work or whatever. You caught a lot of slack for it being a white character. Do you remember that?
I kind of, yeah, somebody asked me that, which was weird because the character isn't white.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually Hispanic. He just, and this is something that's part of the story of the character. He's Hispanic. And if I think the way my artist drew it, it made it look more white than he should be, but he's definitely a Hispanic character. But I did get some flack because somebody was like, "You're a black creator. Why aren't you creating a black character?" And I'm like, "Well, I have 4 books in total, 4 series in total. Out of those 4 books, half of my books are black characters. Shama's Destiny is a black character. Ruby from Planet Oz is black characters. So the idea that I can only create black characters just seems ridiculous to me. Like, why do I have to limit myself just because I'm black to just creating black characters? Definitely, I want to create characters that are African American, but I'm not going to limit myself to just that type of that character. I'm gonna if I have a story and I feel like it works well for that culture, I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna just try to work it just to force it into some pigeonhole of a character just because I'm black also. So I've never understood that idea of of creating characters or writing a story just based off the culture that you're a part of, because that just limits what we can do. We can grow, we can research, we can find out so much about the characters. I mean, why limit ourselves to just that one thinking?
Yeah. I ran into the same issue.
Hmm.
But you just used a word that I can counteract why I'm doing what I'm doing. So my books are basically based on the Southern culture. So
Hmm.
a lot of folks live around here that's not all black. Some people white.
Hmm.
My firefighter series that I'm doing, I spoke to you like years ago on your show about doing it, and it's still in production. I released several promotional stuff about the characters, and majority of the characters are white. I think 2 characters are black. So I caught slack like why I got so many white characters, and it's like, oh, your black characters must be the main characters. No, they're not. They're not the main. They're the side characters. They're the cookie cutter trope black characters. Who they are. Like that's what they're here for.
Hmm.
Um, but one of our main characters, he's Puerto Rican, but uh, kind of funny. It's funny how you brought up about your character looking white. It's a thing for him. They call him White Boy because I guess he looks white or acts white in the
Hmm.
story. So he grew up with the term White Boy. So if you look at him, you might think he's white, but he's actually Puerto Rican. And I talk about it a lot in my story because growing up, uh, it was some Hispanic kids. Now they thought there was white kids, but they asked who was Hispanic. So uh, uh, so I put that in play in my book. Also, it's a bigger thing about my book. The character. It's kind of like a surprise in the View book to find out which character is what through that book. Because so I kept it, make sure it looked white and that one character is white, but you won't know which character it is unless you read the whole series of the Firefighters. So it's a little play on that, but uh yeah, all my books are Southern culture. So everything's in the South. I put my books like it's white people in the South, so that I can have this country written in white boys in this book, and I'm gonna have these things because that's what I grew up around. I grew up like the white boys. Having lifted trucks and stuff like that going to school. I mean,
Hmm.
there was some that wore the golf shorts and the collar shirt that even says my dad will sue you. I did have them, but mostly it's the ones that was like same income we were. They just white.
Yeah, I
Wear
mean,
wear Wrangler jeans and boots all day to work because that's what they can find. Go for the Wranglers. And the boots because they can wear to school and go to work in them. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't understand why we have to just have one culture in our books. I mean, like you said, you live in an area that's probably predominantly black, but there's definitely other people out there that are different races, different cultures. Why can't we represent that and just enjoy the story? I mean, that's always been my thought. And if you want, sorry, somebody just rang your doorbell. Hold on. If you want to have you know, what's my dog doing? Hey, stop.
Apparently, he
So
wants you to answer the door.
she's being dumb right now. It's, but I mean, yeah, if you want to, have a story that has different cultures, do it. Just be mindful and respectful of that. That's all. That's all we have to do is just be mindful and respectful of what's happening and what you're doing, and people should just enjoy it.
Yeah. Um. Uh. What made you start your podcast? What was the idea behind that?
Um, Honestly, the idea was it was during the pandemic and there was no conventions. And I knew that when things open up again and conventions open up again, I'm going to be doing panels and talking to people. And I needed the practice more than anything. I needed the practice of just being able to talk in front of a microphone and talk in front of a group. And the idea of making a podcast just felt like the best option for me because it allows me to practice basically every week Just like you and I are doing, we get to talk, we get to answer questions, and people don't realize how hard that is to just coming up with an answer off the top of your head when you're on the spotlight like that. Like the idea of just coming up with an idea of an answer just within a second or two of somebody asking a question, that actually takes practice. And if you're doing that, if you're like at a panel and someone asks you a question, and you don't want to just sit there being like just mumbling on. You want to be able to say what you have in your idea, say what you have in your brain, fairly easily. And as we started doing it, the more I got into it, it was more this idea of I like practicing, answering questions, asking questions, things like that. But also like finding out about other people now. I like finding out about what got other people into getting into comics, what drives them into comics. So now that's what's driving me to do this. This idea of I'm finding out more about other people and why they're still doing comics more than I ever thought I could. And so this is now a way for me to just find out cool books like your book, Legacy of the View. I never heard of it until I read it when we were on our podcast. And now every week I'm talking to other people. I'm finding out new things about books that are coming out. I'm finding out new things about the industry that's changing. All that just is I find very interesting.
Dope, that's dope. Now, would you believe that would be like an avenue to get more paying customers to your books or whatever, or you just thought just a learning experience?
When I started, I didn't think of it as an avenue to find new fans or anything like that. Because I realized that at least starting off, it's just going to be people that know me already. And usually people that know me are going to be the ones to support me. So I didn't think of it as an idea of that. But as we started growing and people started listening to us, I did realize that, if this grew far enough, I could take this podcast and make some money off it if we got enough listeners. So we are always trying to make this show better, to make a bigger audience, because we've been doing this now for 3 years and we enjoy doing it. But if we can make money off of it, sure, we want to do that also. I don't think Danny, my podcast partner, we don't anticipate getting rich off of doing this, but we want to have fun with it. We want to find new books that we can enjoy ourselves, and we want to introduce new books for our audience to watch and listen to. And if we make some money off of that, why not?
Now, have you found any other ways to get the market to, or like get your brand out to customers on the internet, or ways to get more paying customers? I guess because a lot of people don't have to pay; they just support you all day long.
Uh, right now, the biggest thing I found is TikTok. TikTok has been a great way to reach new audiences, um, because TikTok is so visual. You can show images of your book, the interior. You can talk about it really quickly. And it's just a fascinating way of people to just see who you are, see what you are all about. And, I find that's the best option. Like I know some people are buying ads on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. And things like that have never worked for me. Buying an ad has never worked. But geez, my dog is killing me. Um, but just being yourself, being genuine, and just showing and a passion for your comic, I find that's the best thing so far that has helped me, get an audience.
Okay, okay. Being at TikTok, you said it's more visual and audio. People, like, you gotta show passion in your comics,
Mhm.
and as you being a podcaster as well. Have you seen that the creators that are, I don't know the word to use, I guess more sheltered or more uh inclusive, are harder for them to sell their books, even though they got good books, artwork, or writing. Then it's harder for them to do the social media thing.
I have noticed that people that are very introverted, they find it harder to put themselves out there because you're not used to putting yourself out there. So definitely, people that are used that are very closed in, and don't want them to be seen. I find it very, I see it in them that it's hard for them to just find an audience. Great example is I know a guy, his name is Nicholas Garza. He actually did the cover for issue 4 of Saw the Lightning Wielder. He's a fantastic artist. Honestly, he's one of the best artists that I've seen on the indie scene. Um, but he's very introverted. He's very quiet. He's very shy. So even though he's displaying all his artwork and it looks great, because people don't see him and don't really feel his passion, he's not getting the traction he feels like he could. And I can I try to tell him all the time, it's one thing to put your work out there for others to see, but people they want to back you along with the book. You're going to find people that want to back your book, but you also need people to understand who you are. Otherwise, they're not going to want to back it. And that's just the honest truth. A lot of this marketing is a lot of the marketing nowadays, it's not just your artwork. It's you also. Your personality pushes that person that's on the fence that maybe doesn't want to back it to actually backing it. Somebody that I admire is Danny Quick, writer of Ace Blade. He has a great series. He was posting on social media all the time, all these images of his book, which is fantastic artwork, but it wasn't moving. But the moment he started putting himself out there and showing people like, hey, this is Danny, this is my book, and just being himself along with the book, his growth was exponentially done. He went from like a few thousand followers on TikTok to almost 100,000 followers now within a matter of like a year, and that's because he's putting himself out there. He's showing himself and his work, and people want to see that because they don't want to think we're just corporate shells. They don't want to think we're just some robotic thing. They want to see the person behind the creation as much as they want to see the creation itself.
Yeah. I kind of did it. Mine was kind of weird. Um, go back to the black white thing.
Hmm.
So first issue was mostly just like friends, family, people I know. Second issue was like, uh, I went and studied how Kickstarter and stuff work.
Hmm.
Then most Kickstarter people who know about it are white, so a lot of first backers was white.
Yeah.
Third issue, I kind of got some more friends and family back into it, and it's returning backers. But on TikTok, so I blurred the line. I always didn't want to offend people or whatever, cause like I don't want to mess up my sales. Saying whatever. Like I said, I don't care what I say out my mouth. But I
Hmm.
made a video on TikTok about some candy, with Nubia and stuff like that, and somebody came at me, and just me, behind a computer with trigger fingers, I said what I wanted to say to that person, and that kept triggering stuff, and it kept making me make videos and make me just go up. I'm not at 100,000 like Danny, but I'm like close to 10,000. TikTok
Yeah.
just don't want me to crack 10,000 for some reason. I don't know, but I got a lot of traction because of that. I was being like my unapologetic self,
Yeah.
and that really brought more people. So now, like I guess people who's pro black, and also this Muslim thing. Like I got a whole bunch of Muslim buyers and supporters too, because one of the reasons they thought the view was a female wearing a hijab. So I had to correct
Mm.
somebody that I wasn't wearing a hijab. This is a t-shirt mask. But some people see that and think it's a hijab and support me because I have a Muslim character. Which an Indian superhero came out. I'm trying to figure out who came out first, but the character name is, hold on, I always got it saved just so I can say it. Uh Probably can't say it either or. But I think on Hulu the name is the Minimalist. But it's probably Minimal Moriori, and
Hmm.
I guess the beginning of his story arc, he has the rebel mask was inspired my t-shirt mask. You know, when you start doing like stuff overseas and they want to like terrorize and do stuff, they take their shirts and tie around their head. That's where I got an idea from. Well, he
Hmm.
used that in his comic book series, show, movie, whatever it is, as his first uh costume, just like the View. But I think his absolute job is he's a tailor or a stylist or something. So because he has that job, he create his own uniform and dish the mask. But a lot of the promos for it is him with the t-shirt mask on. I was like, that's crazy. I wanted that it's still my idea because I cause that's all logic behind mine of why I do it for my hero. But with that, I was like, man, I wonder because of the whole Muslim thing, I wanted it to bleed over overseas, and somebody took it and that to theirs with a lot more budget behind it. But I had to look it up and see like what came first. But
Mhm.
definitely it's on Hulu right now, and I seen it, and I almost like shit my pants. I was like, damn, I should have trademarked it.
No, I mean it's
Yeah.
weird how we'll see something and we'll think, God, that looks exactly like my character, and it's weird like that. But there's got to be ways to there's got to be ways that we can still have our characters and not have to worry about somebody else stealing it or ripping it off. And I don't think it happens as much as we probably think it does. But we want to make sure that our characters are unique and that people can't just rip it off easily. I mean, there should be ways that we can protect ourselves from things like that. Honestly.
But this towards the end of the show, and I'm gonna do my last segment.
Oh,
It's called digging in the crates. So, being done with me that term, know all about digging in the crates. You digging in the crates for the Ninja Turtles books you seen as a kid, or the Batman books or whatnot. As well in music, you dig through, CDs and vinyls trying to find, them R&B classics, that it's not on
mm-hmm.
iTunes, something like that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna dig through, this interview and pull out some questions, so we can end the show with something. So, uh, you gave me a whole bunch of titles, throughout the show. Uh, so if you were picked up by one of those DC or Marvel, would you do Silver Surfer, Batman, Dark Hawk, or Teenage Mutant Turtles? And what would be if you pick one? What would be your story? So don't say a good one, so they might listen to this and steal it. But what would be your story with them characters?
Oh, jeez. Um, It'd probably be a Silver Surfer story if I had to choose one of the options. It'd definitely be a Silver Surfer story. I think if I was going to do a Silver Surfer story, it would probably be one where he either loses his powers and he's just not as omnipotent as he currently is, or one where he has to decide if he wants to keep his powers or return back to be human to finally be with his love, Shalaba. I think it'd be one of those two stories. If I was forced to do it, it'd have to be one of those two.
Okay, okay. Um, that's dope. That's dope. Speaking of Silver Surfer, and I guess you are of age, so your memory's better than mine. So growing up, did you think Silver Surfer was well? You read the books, dang.
Yeah.
So the question is irrelevant to you. Well, growing up, they had the Silver Surfer TV show, right?
Yes.
I just I just swore he was black. Like I don't vividly remember him being black, but when I go back and look at it, he wasn't black. So I wonder what made me think he was black on the show.
I don't know because
Was
he
it a
definitely
voice
was
act?
not.
Was it a voice actor or something?
I don't even remember who the voice actor was, but he definitely was not black. And
Yeah, I was like, I always thought he was black. I was like, oh yeah, these black people from outer space, like, and he's Silver Surfer.
it might be okay. I'm looking at the cartoon, and when he was in his human form, they had him a little dark toned. So you might thought he was like maybe a light skinned brother. Um,
It's
but yeah,
just
he was.
like this, the same effect with Now I never thought this one, but in one of those little anime nerd groups on Facebook, they say they thought Lex Luger for from
Oh, for Superman.
yeah, it was black. I never in my life thought he was black.
No, I heard that one too. Because if you look at it's the animated series from the '90s. If you look at Lex Luthor, there, he was a little bit. They gave him like a little bit of a tan, and they gave him some lips. Like he wasn't thin lipped. So you go look at Lex Luthor from the cartoon series, and you're like, all right, I could see a brother being like that, just a little bit, a little light skinned dude, but I, I don't know why they did it. They gave him a little bit of a tan, and they got him some big lips. I'm like, all right, either you're trying to say he's black or something. I don't know.
He might be Kardashian. That's what he is.
It, he's a mixed something for sure.
Yeah. But that's dope, man. Thanks for being on the show and whatnot. For people who listen to this show after your Kickstarter is over or whatnot, where can they find your books? And not only find your books, but also my daughter just busting the room.
It's all right. It's all right. We already have my dog barking, so we're used to it now.
Yeah. They want to purchase your books and as well as follow you. What can I do that at?
You can go to my website. It's tauruscomics.com, Taurus comics.com.
Mm-hmm.
I am on all social media, Twitch, not Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. All those are at Taurus Comics, so you can check me out there. We talked about my podcast. If you want to listen to our podcast, which Specks was on there a few times there, it's Four Tales Podcast. So it's the number 4 TALES podcast.com. You can go and listen to our previous episodes and check me out there also.
That's cool. That's cool, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. Enjoyed you. Maybe I can get the View to be on your show. So he missed his interview. I can get the View to be on your show or whatever.
Man,
but
I'm not trusting him anymore. He said he was gonna be here and he's never here. He sucks at this point, dude.
Yeah, I would tell him that you had a superhero on your show already. I think Base Force was on there, right?
Force was on there. Yeah, Base Force was on there. I mean, if we can get Legacy of the View on there to talk about him, if you can let me know. We'll interview him.
I might trick him. I might gotta trick him. Then he's doing something else, and it pop up. He's on that podcast, and he knows. He's like, "Oh man, he got no reason to lie now." Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks again, man.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Unlike Specks, I'm a real baller, and I do have football practice. I do play other sports besides baseball. But, hey, y'all check out Kyrun Silva. Great creator, great artist. He does a dope podcast, and he does great work. Check him out. Follow him. Support the books he do and his comic book company and everything. Dope dude. And if you want to check out my books, because they're dope too, look up legacyofview.com and get one. Or you can just follow me on my journey at Legacy of View. And you want to follow my non-baller co-host Specks. Follow him at Specks706. And if you want to be on the show, hit us up at Chill on the Greenbox or chillongreenbox@gmail.com.